Welcome to the Jack Rice Show. Very happy to have with me U.S. Congressman Jeff Miller from Florida's 1st District. Congressman, thanks for joining the program.
It's my pleasure, Jack. Thanks for allowing me to come on and talk with you today.
When we look at just what happened with the House, what's going on with Congress right now, as I understand it, they've decided they passed a bill to sue OPEC?
Oh, well, don't you know that's the way to fix high gas prices is turn the trial lawyers loose on OPEC?
See, I'm trying to understand here. I mean, what I've seen when we talk about energy prices is everybody is pointing the finger at the other. I know the Republicans are blaming the Dems. I know the Dems are blaming the Republicans. They're all blaming the Saudis. The president goes to Saudi Arabia. Now we're suing OPEC. What's really going on here? What's the fundamental problem, do you think?
Politics. I mean, there's no question politics is the big driver in this issue. And, I mean, gosh, we can go all the way back to the Clinton administration. Actually, if you want to go further back than that, go back to Jimmy Carter when we had the embargo. But, you know, you talk about trying to go into ANWR and open up drilling in the Arctic Reserve, and the Clinton administration said no. If we'd have drilled 10, 15 years ago, we would have had oil coming out of that area, and we would have been refining it now. But the sheer fact we don't have the refinery capacity, the fact that we have supplies here at home that we are not going after, is a telltale sign that Congress is not interested in solving this problem long term. They're looking for short-term political fixes, and that doesn't resolve anything.
But is that really the problem, too? I look at the amount of oil that's actually in ANWR versus the amount of oil that we actually burn through on a daily basis, and it seems to me that that's, relatively speaking, a blip. Is it a broader question?
Not ANWR by itself. I mean, you know, you've got ANWR, you've got the Outer Continental Shelf, you've got the shale reserves that we can go in and get. Unfortunately, the Democrats have blocked us from going into our own national parks and getting some of this material out. Now, granted, we're moving beyond a fossil fuel world where we are being driven in cars now by battery. We got hydrogen cells. You know, all of the automobiles that the market is now clamoring for that we weren't 10, 15 years ago. You see people going and buying alternative fueled cars, and I think that we do have to change the way that we do things, but you can't force it. It's a market-driven issue.
Well, if that's part of the problem, if it's the market that's driven this, I mean, if the market drives us to the precipice, isn't the rule of government to say, wait a second, I understand what the market is doing, but let me tell you what's not happening today, tomorrow, this quarter, or next, and you know that's how things are driven in the business world. If it's the job of government to say, we're going to look at what's coming next year and in a decade from now, isn't that part of the problem too?
That's why I said if we'd have been drilling 10 years ago for oil in the Arctic Reserve, the supply side part of the problem would not be as large as it is now. But I'll tell you, it is not government's responsibility to tell me what kind of automobile I'm going to drive. If I want to drive an SUV, then I'm going to drive an SUV. I have a Ford F-250 diesel pickup truck, and I'm paying a lot of money for diesel right now, but that's what I choose to drive. When the market gets to the point that I can't afford it anymore, then I make a conscious decision, like some people are having to make now with the automobiles that they're driving, but that's not a government responsibility.
But isn't it true, though, the cost of you driving your F-250 or me driving whatever it is that I drive, that also means that we have 160,000 troops in Iraq, doesn't it? Is there a connection to that?
We're not in Iraq for oil. If that was the case,
I was thinking what John McCain said. That's all.
If we were in Iraq for oil, would we be paying $4 a gallon for gas today?
We're not very smart if we are.
Yeah, the answer is no. And you know, there's a lot of people out there right now that probably were wishing that we did go to Iraq for oil. The fact is we're doing that for a national security standpoint, and the same thing with oil. I mean, you know, fuel keeps our country going, whether it's nuclear, and I am a large proponent of nuclear power. We haven't had a facility built in years. There's now one going on in the north central part of Florida that's being built. We've got natural gas facilities, but we're still going to have our electricity produced by coal as well. But there is so much demand out there right now, and it's not the United States. You know, if you listen to a lot of the Democrats right now, they tell you that the United States are the ones that are going out there and consuming all of the energy. That's not the truth. I mean, you look at the developing countries, you look at China, and the appetite that they have right now. This is a worldwide issue. We can do what we can in the United States, but the entire world is going to be impacted.
But if the ramifications hit us directly, we do use a lot of energy, no question, and I know the Chinese are coming up too. Do we allow the market to drive it, or is there something that the government should be doing to ensure that we deal with those problems that are out there before we get to that edge where I'm paying not just $4 a gallon, but how about $6? How about $7? How about $8?
I'm trying to figure out exactly what you're trying to get at. Is it the government's responsibility? What kind of ideas do you have that you'd put on the table?
Well, I mean, again, I don't see this as much of a debate. I'm simply trying to figure out if we looked at where the free market goes, and we find that this is what corporations are designed to do. The free market fundamentally, in my mind, is not about public good. It never has been about public good. It's about maximum profit, with the idea that if we allow maximum profit to reign, then somehow everybody will benefit. But what I've also seen is when we allow the free market to drive everything, and we're pushing now to the point that we're looking from this quarter to the next quarter to the next quarter, where all of a sudden we're driving into Nigeria to get oil, and we're having to compete in places like Sudan with the Chinese who are driving into Sudan. I'm just back from Darfur, and we talk about that debate. The problem is there are greater costs that we have to pay, including things like stability, and that's one of the reasons we were in Iraq, because of the close relationship to the Saudi Arabians and some of the others.
Well, I mean, that may be part of the issue, but again, I don't want to tie the Iraq war and the oil.
It's not that simple, and I agree with you.
We have a looming threat there that I think everybody recognizes, but again, I don't believe that it's government's responsibility to go out and make sure that people are doing the right thing. We should do that on our own. I mean, that's, like I said, the market is taking care of some of those things now. People are carpooling. People are starting to drive smaller cars. If you can afford to drive a larger vehicle, I have my pickup truck because I actually have a farm at home, so I have to have it to work. So, I mean, I have a reason to have that vehicle. But, the issue of government coming in and saying to an American that the free market system is not the way that we should go. I mean, I listened. I had an argument with somebody in the airport the other day. They were talking about CNN and that we needed to rein in the oil companies, that they were making too much profit. And, I asked him, I said, well, how much is, too much profit? I said, if you say 7 or 8%, is that too much profit? And, I said, if you filled up your car and you had an 8% cut, is that enough? No, that's not enough. We need more. I said, well, that's what their profit margin is 8% tops. Walt Disney World made 22% last year. I don't see anybody clamoring to, push, them down to the floor to make them, rein in their profits. And I just, again, yes, there is a free market system. People invest in the stock markets. Everybody's screaming right now because the stock market is going down. Stock market's going down because of volatility out there. And you want people to be successful in business, and success in business is rated by their profit margins, and those profits are reinvested in most cases to where people can have jobs.
Are you optimistic that we're going to see some major change? Obviously, it's been the drop in the dollar. It's been some speculation issues. It's been some of the actual damage we had back in 2005, 2006. Do you see changes coming in the energy costs that I'm paying to fill up my car?
Sure, I do.
I think
it's going to be driven. The solution is not necessarily going to come out of Washington. It's going to come from middle America, small town America. People who are constantly telling the leadership in Washington, regardless of the political parties, but they're telling the leadership, we can't afford to pay this. Who would have thought that we would be wishing for $2.50 a gallon gas again? I mean, it just, you and I can both remember in years past where, it was 90 cents, less than that. And the leadership on both sides of the aisle are going to have to say, yes, we care about the environment. Yes, we care about national security, but there are some things that can be done to lessen the impact. You've got people out there right now that are advocating 50 cent a gallon gas taxes. That's the last thing we need to do, is to slap a gas tax, because people have to drive to work. They're going to have to get there somehow, and they're going to have to pay that tax. It's not just the rich person that's going to be hit.
Congressman Jeff Miller out of Florida, thank you very much for joining me.
Hey, Jack, my pleasure. Thank you.